Here's Brody Brazil.
It is an interesting situation right now for Major League Baseball in trying to figure out when their next season should start. Now, one critical element that is not changing, in fact, it's getting more difficult, is timing. Because if they're going to do this on a normal schedule, spring training needs to start in just a couple weeks. And that time is going to go by very quickly. But I'm here to say, as you think about it, you step back, you don't rush to make this decision. What's the harm in delaying things a month? Just delaying everything a month. You're going to end the season ultimately a lot later, but what you could gain in those 4 weeks' time is a much better situation in our country, in our world, the opportunity to have fans at your stadiums earlier than later. I mean, I know this is a regional thing, and every different state and city is going to have their own set of circumstances, but if you ask me, baseball is in a tough spot, but baseball's in a lucky spot that they're starting up a couple months from now, and they even could delay it a month. Now, the end of the season, let's talk about that. Yeah, I mean, you push everything back a legitimate month, and you might be having a World Series right before Thanksgiving. And I don't know how the weather would be. Are you going to do a whole neutral site World Series again if that's the case, somewhere under a roof? Would people complain? I mean, there's a lot of other rules to figure out right now. Is there going to be a designated hitter? You guys still doing that 7-inning doubleheader thing? Maybe that's another way to cut back on the length of a season. Schedule more doubleheaders, but make them of the 7-inning variety. And then there's also the whole extra inning thing to be worked out. Or are you going to start with a runner on second base all over again? And all these things are part of the negotiations between the league and the players' union. It's crazy that all these things get discussed as if they fall under one agreement. I'll do this if you do that. But those two things don't make any sense. Like they don't relate to each other. So it's interesting right now. I just don't see what the harm would be in baseball delaying 1 month. You tell me the negative right there. What's the negative? I'm waiting. Right? Because there is none. But think about the potential upsides. World in a better place, keeping your players that much safer and healthier. Vaccine distribution has the opportunity to be a month ahead of where it would be if you started on normal time. And I think the biggest thing that players want right now is just to know. Now, they've been told, hey, prepare for the normal schedule. And baseball laid out, I mean, this is also part of it too. Baseball laid out 162 games again, with travel to all divisions, interleague play. I mean, they just threw the full gauntlet back out there again. Didn't we just go through a 60-game season, which was in, actually, looking back, easier circumstances, at least more stable circumstances during the baseball season? And players said those 60 games were the hardest season of their career. How is that? Because it was. And they're about to jump right back into this all over again. Now, I'm not even suggesting cut the season short. I know owners don't want that. I know players don't want that. And unfortunately, they mostly don't want that because it's a bad business situation. Everybody's going to lose if you play less games. And they're coming off a season where everybody already took a hit and lost something that they were expecting to get. But there's also integrity of the game. You'd like to get it back, on time. You'd like to get a normal season played out for, historical purposes, I suppose. It's amazing that they're trying to go full scale. They would be. I mean, right, football just finished up an entire regular season, but when you play one game a week, and it's only, 4 months, it's not the same as 162 games. And it's interesting that baseball is, they were the first league to operate outside of a bubble. And for the most part, they got it done. They had their issues. They had widespread issues. At certain points, it looked less than promising that they would actually be able to complete or even continue. But they did. And so I look at 162 right now. It's possible. Not gonna put it past them. I mean, they've already impressed. I do have faith that they could. I'm not asking them to shorten anything. I'm just saying, start with this. Start with pushing everything back a little bit. Just try a month. And you know what? Realistically, even 2 or 3 weeks would help. But a month just makes it easier. I think it's a smarter decision. And again, I really can't think of any objections, with the only thing being, how do you make sure you get the playoffs and ultimately World Series in if weather does become a factor in many parts of the country by November? But hopefully the pandemic is not a factor in November, or much, much, much less of a factor in November. So if you ask me, not certain about the amount of games yet, push everything back a month.